The art of storytelling. What makes storytelling so powerful? The answer lies with biology and the theory of evolution. A human brain is pre-wired to think in terms of stories. We gather facts and data and weave it into a pattern inside our head, which tells a story. In every culture, storytelling is weaved into the upbringing of a child. Bedtime stories is how we help our children form patterns in their heads about what is right and wrong and about community values and beliefs. The shortest story ever written in the whole world is written by Hemingway, and it is only 6 words long. For sale, baby's shoes never worn. What emotions did this story trigger in your brain? Research shows that when we listen to stories, we trigger a chemical in our brain called oxytocin. This chemical is associated with trust, empathy, and collaboration. This means when you tell a story, you automatically become more endearing to your audience.
I was traveling from Mumbai to New York about 6 years back. In the middle of the flight, a pregnant woman screamed, and then I froze in my seat. In fact, her screams got louder, and it compelled me to get up out of my seat, roll up my sleeves, and help out. So, in Mumbai, we took off with 532 passengers and landed in New York with 533.
How was it? Did you visualize the plane? Did you feel you were with the storyteller in the plane? Did you almost get up when she said, "jolted me into action"? If the answer is yes, then this is what happened. So storytelling creates 3 phenomena in our brains. Neural coupling. When you start telling a story, the brain patterns of all the listeners get tuned in and locked in with your brain patterns. It starts as soon as you start telling a story and stops as soon as a story is over. Mirror effect. When you tell a story, the same neurons are fired in the listener's mind as in the storyteller's. Hence, when she said she jolted into action, the listener felt the jolt. Engagement effect. When you tell a story, it releases oxytocin and dopamine in the listener's mind and increases brain activity. Hence, the brain is more engaged and subsequently enhances retention. How to construct a story? Every story has a plot. Plot is what happens in the story. There are 5 elements to a story's plot. Beginning or exposition, this is when you introduce the plot and the character to the listener.
Romeo and Juliet met at a party, and it was love at first sight. However, their families were enemies.
Rising action. This is where the key problem of the narrative is developed and explained via a character and their actions. This is the part where the story momentum is built.
Romeo visits Juliet on her balcony every evening, and they fall madly in love, and they decide to get secretly married without the knowledge of their families. Then Romeo kills Tybalt, Juliet's cousin, and is exiled, and her father orders her to get married to someone else. Juliet takes some sleeping medicine to pretend like she's asleep and sends a note to Romeo that she hasn't killed herself, but appears to everyone else that she has. Unfortunately, he didn't get the message.
Climax, also called the turning point of the story, is where the problem is dealt with and resolved. It could be a happy resolution or a sad or an ugly resolution. Either ways, the problem gets resolved.
Romeo kills himself, and then Juliet awakes and realizes that he didn't get the message, and she kills herself too.
Falling action or denouement. This is where the reader learns what happens because of the climax or the way in which the problem was solved.
The 2 families mourn Romeo and Juliet's death.
resolution, where the entire plot is wrapped up and there is a sense of closure for the reader.
Romeo and Juliet's death has ended the family feud, and there's peace once again in Verona.
Characters are of two types, the protagonist and the antagonist. The protagonist is the main character and the antagonist is the character who is in opposition with the protagonist. Example, Romeo and Juliet are the protagonists. Their conflict is with their families and their parents, especially Juliet, whose parents wish her to marry someone else. Conflict. For there to be a narrative, the protagonist or the main character has to have a conflict. Now, the conflict could be any one of these three types. It could be with another person, that's the antagonist, or the main character has some internal conflict. So the conflict could be internal within oneself, or the conflict is with the environment or the nature. Example, Romeo and Juliet's conflict are that their families are in a feud and they are not allowed to be with each other. Setting. Narratives have a time and place where the action is set. Example, Romeo and Juliet is set in Verona, Italy. Theme. Narratives have a theme or main idea or main underlying meaning. Theme could be stated in a complete sentence. For example, Romeo and Juliet is not just about love, but you could state the theme as love overcomes hate. What are the different types of stories in a business setting? So in this video, we are going to discuss 9 types of stories. Now you could pick up stories from your own personal life or stories you've read in a book or stories someone has shared with you. The key point to note here is that you need to understand the technique of telling a story. So the plot, the 5 different constructs of the stories, the settings, the conflict, the narratives. Once you get the technique, then you should start mastering the art of telling a story. One of my favorites are the mountaintop stories. These are also called great team stories. Now, in a business setting, you will find innumerable occasions where you can inspire, motivate people by talking about winning teams in tough times. Now, these stories are drawn a lot from sports environment. So here we are going to tell you about a story from a basketball event.
I joined Woodstock as the head of the girls' basketball team. And what I found there was a team who wasn't really interested in playing and had poor team dynamics. For months, I struggled. I found my job boring, uninteresting, lack of challenge. It was like akin to living a half-life. One day, I decided to turn around this team and make them one of the most competitive, close-knit teams in the country and take them to nationals. First, I worked with the team captain and brought her over to my side. We planned a series of events like inspirational movies, fun activities, in-house matches, followed by fun games afterwards. We also had several small adventure camps, and over 6 months, the girls started bonding together. A lack of practice and competitive playing had made their technical skills rusty. So I organized inter-school matches, and I knew they would lose, but it would ignite a team spirit. So by the time they lost their 5th game in a row, they were inconsolable, but they came out as fighting tigers. That was a turning point for the Woodstock girls basketball team when they became a force to reckon with and went on to nationals. They were known for their team spirit. Remember, igniting a team spirit can lead to magical results. When a group of individuals is united by a common goal and vision, they can move mountains. Nothing is impossible for a team.
Inspirational stories. Now these are evergreen stories. These are stories that people really love to hear at any point in their lives. Especially in the age of pandemic and with everything changing around so much, I really encourage you to have a good repertoire of inspirational stories that you can share with colleagues, peers, friends, even at home with your children, with your family. These are stories about how people overcome challenges and still reach their dreams. The positive outcome of telling an inspirational story to someone, you will be surprised that that person will instantly develop a very strong bond with you and start trusting you. They will start respecting you internally, and somehow they will look at you as a person who's empathetic and very human-centric. Remember the 6-word story? So stories don't have to be long. Even short stories, 2 sentences or 10 sentences stories can be very powerful. Here is an example of a powerful short inspirational story.
Disney Corporation, one of the lucrative companies, has high quality of standards and a constant, ongoing stream of innovations. Yet, Walt Disney was fired from his newspaper job for lacking imagination. After a few failed business ventures, Disney's upbeat attitude is what carried him through. He's been quoted as saying, "A kick in the teeth is the best thing for you." After his Snow White premiered, the rest is history.
Customer story. Did you know the best salespeople are the ones who tell excellent stories? And why so? It is because when you tell stories, the listeners really start engaging with you and they start trusting and forming bonds with you. Now, the best thing to do, the best sales strategy, know your customer, understand what matters to them, what is their belief and value system that is closest to their hearts, and tell a story around that. Believe me, within no time, the kind of relationship you will form with your customer will be way, way, way beyond your imagination.
As a child, I was shy and less confident. I'd watch all the other kids on the stage performing and I'd wish that I was there too. My mother noticed that I was afraid and I shared with her my fear of speaking on the stage. She grabbed me, hugged me, and told me that she'd work with me. She had me memorize a poem and speak it every day after school on the stage. We got permission from the principal, and over time I got better and more confident. Finally, that year I performed in my school's annual function and was on the stage. I didn't win any awards that year, but I felt a lot more confident. By the time I was in middle school, I was head of my dramatics club and had more than 10 awards under my belt. From then on, I was able to fiercely express myself in any situation. That taught me the best lesson of life: perseverance and hard work pay off.
Here's an example of another type of customer story called building credibility.
In the last 5 years, I've cracked 20 big deals. And today, I'm still in touch with all of those people. In fact, 6 of them have even moved companies and we're still in contact now. This is what I love about my job, relationship building. It's based on trust and respect.
And now let's look at one of the most important types of customer stories called influencing. This is where you're trying to crack the deal. Now, what is most important here is to figure out what is the customer pain point. Once you know that, you craft a story around that to influence your customer. Let's look at an example.
You want to increase your sales. Now you're clocking a revenue of $10 million. But imagine if you can increase your customer retention by 5%, your sales would go up significantly. Our product would do that and more. Last year, our customer HeroCore approached us to help them improve their customer retention. We did a root cause analysis, and within 6 months, we're able to turn around the trend. Today, HeroCore's customer retention has gone up by 30% and revenue by 20%. We've helped to turn around a company that was almost on the brink of going bankrupt.
And now comes the time with the customer when you're ready to close the deal. This is the most difficult and the most critical phase, isn't it? When you're sitting across the table and you're ready to sign on the document, yet there are some ifs and buts that are yet not getting closed. Now, if at that moment there's nothing else you can do, but if you could tell a powerful story to kind of break the ice and change the environment, wow, you could crack the deal. And that's exactly the kind of example we have for you here.
I've been working on this deal for the last 4 months. We were right at the close of the negotiation, sitting in the boardroom, when suddenly the head of procurement stood up and said that he didn't feel comfortable about the deal because of a deal that he had had 3 years before, which went bad. I sat there on the edge of my seat, not knowing what to do. There was no reason or logic that I could use to appeal to him and change his mind. So I stepped out for 5 minutes to clear my head, and then it struck me. I needed to tell them a story about letting go and moving forward in order for them to let go of this bad deal from 3 years back and move on. So I shared with them the monk and the woman's story. The story did wonders. They decided to go ahead and bury the past and move forward and sign the deal. You want to hear the story? Here it is. There were 2 monks walking along, one older one and one younger one. They came upon a river with a fast current, and a young woman was sitting there by herself. She asked the monks, could they help her cross the river? Without a word, despite his sacred vow not to touch another woman, the older monk picks up the woman, crosses the river, and sets her down on the other side. The younger monk joins him across the river, but is aghast at how he could break his vow, but says nothing. 1 hour passes. 2 hours pass. 3 hours pass, and he's getting agitated. And finally he bursts out and says to the older monk, why did you carry that woman across the river and break our sacred vow? The older monk says, I set her down hours ago next to the river. Why are you still carrying her? The story is a reminder not to dwell on the past when it interferes with the present.
And now we look at interview stories. These are, of course, personal stories and can be so powerful. Now, if you're asked a question like, tell me about a time when you handled a difficult customer, you can do wonders with it if you could really narrate a great story. Let's look at an example where you told it in a story format and when you didn't. Hopefully, when you hear both of those examples, you will see the difference.
2 years ago, we had a very demanding customer. He was really aggressive. We tried our best to keep him informed, but no matter what we did, he still would say we didn't communicate enough. There were escalations, we were stressed. He kept us on our toes all the time.
What if you told them the story like this?
2 years ago, I had a very challenging client. He was the relationship manager on our account. I set up a one-to-one call with him to seek his feedback, understand his expectations, and business challenges. But before the call, I wanted to do some homework in order to connect better with him. So I researched on social media his LinkedIn profile, and I found out he had written a book. And then I looked at his Facebook profile and Instagram and noticed that he played soccer in college. So I used these 2 points to bond with him when we spoke on the phone. On our call, this helped us to really connect and get him to open up. Based on his feedback, I created a worksheet which would give a daily update of the project status. He really appreciated that. And gradually, with time, our relationship grew and he was happier. I learned how to deal with a difficult customer.
And now, which one is more memorable and why? The first one was very generic and hence a little boring. The second story had so much more detail. Now, detail is what adds flavors to a story and it helps in visualization. So what you create is a very rich narrative, as well as the fact that the interviewer tends to see that you have the right skills when you get detailed in your execution. In the second example, there are many more I statements. Vis-a-vis in the first, everything is narrated as we. Now, when I'm listening to you and you're going to be saying we, after a while I'm going to lose interest because I wouldn't feel I'm talking to somebody who has someone original to say. So using appropriate number of I statements when you're telling a story is very critical. Remember, this is an interview, so the story you tell has to be positive. In the second version, the character of the customer is built out. The listener can visualize the person and hence it is more memorable for her. In the first version, it is too short and dry. Growth stories, one of my favorite mode of stories. These stories are about setting up a new team, a new product line, or a startup, or just growing your business. One of my favorite formats of telling a growth story is backward imaging. In this format, you think of your business 2, 3, or 5 years ahead and paint a picture on the wall. Now, once you create that narrative and share it with your team, at the end of that, they have naturally bought into your growth story.
I joined Zenith as the team lead. We were 10 of us to grow to 40 by the end of the year. At a team event, I shared this story. Imagine 5 years from now, you are part of one of the best Six Sigma implementation and consulting firms in the country. You've handled more than 100 firms and delivered more than 15% savings to the bottom line through critical projects. You're known for your accuracy implementation of Six Sigma projects. From infrastructure to power, services to retail, you have successfully demonstrated the power of Six Sigma implementation. You started off as a team of 10 and are now 100 people. I'm talking about you. You are the team. I received a standing ovation for my story. My story created a powerful visual that sold my team and made my job easier from then on as the team leader.
Funny stories or humorous stories. These are short stories and are usually used as icebreakers. It's great to have a repertoire of funny stories in your docket in case you need to facilitate a difficult meeting, some difficult conversations, or just handle a challenging environment.
I was on a long flight, sitting across the aisle from a woman and a man. The man was a lawyer, and he wanted to talk all the time, and the woman wanted to sleep. It was funny to watch them. The lawyer asks, "Let's play a game," and the lady ignores him. Then he says, "Let's make it interesting. If I answer a question wrong, then I will give you $50. And if you answer a question wrong, then you give me $5. The lady agreed. The first question to her was, "What is the distance between the Earth and the Moon?" She didn't know the answer, so she handed him $5. Now he said, "It's your turn." So the lady asked the lawyer, "What goes up the hill with 3 legs and comes down the hill with 4? The lawyer is astonished. He searches the net, looks in his pocket encyclopedia, checks with his friends on the flight. Hours later, he comes back to the woman and says, "Here's $50. What's the answer?" And the lady wakes up, hands him $5, and goes back to sleep. So she earned her piece.
Funny stories are a great way to warm up your audience. However, they are not everyone's cup of tea. Especially if you are new to the art of storytelling, imagine if you start your presentation with a joke which falls flat. Now that can be very, very unnerving at that point in time. So what you want to do is keep a joke somewhere in the middle or towards the end of your presentation. However, if you do have a funny bone in you, then please be our guest and use as many funny stories as you can to regale your audience. Coaching stories. These stories are about mastering skills. Today we have a story for you about one of the richest men in the world, Warren Buffett. He had an extreme fear of public speaking.
Billionaire investor Warren Buffett was terrified of public speaking. In fact, he would get so nervous that he would rearrange his college classes to make sure that he didn't have to speak in front of other people. At the age of 21, he started his security business career in Omaha, Nebraska. And he realized that if he wanted to achieve his full potential, he had to get over his fear of public speaking. William Buffett enrolled in a Dale Carnegie course, and he found 30 other people who had that same fear as he did of even speaking their name in front of a group of people. According to an HBO documentary, Warren Buffett said, "In my office, you won't see on the wall the degree that I got from University of Nebraska, nor the master's degree that I got from Columbia University. You'll see the award certificate that I got from Dale Carnegie on my wall." Buffett didn't complete the course on his first try. It took 2 tries. His award certificate says Warren Buffett completed the Dale Carnegie course on effective speaking, leadership, and winning and influencing people, January 13th, 1952. Buffett followed up the course by teaching an investment class at a local college. He realized that in order to shore up his confidence, he needed to practice this over and over again in front of a small group of people. Buffett told his students, now you can improve your value by 50% just by working on your communication skills and public speaking. Buffett's point is that mastering the art of public speaking is the single most important skill to boost your career.
Conflict stories. We all face conflict in our day-to-day personal and work lives. Now, typically, these are stressful situations. At this point in time, a good story, a motivational, inspirational story can play a great role. A story can turn as your guide for wisdom, patience, and empathy and emotional maturity. And hence, a tense environment can get converted into an environment of collaboration and team working. Here is an example of a great conflict story.
There was a father who left 17 camels to his 3 sons as assets. And then when unfortunately the father passed away, they opened up the will. The father said in his will to give half of the camels to his eldest son, 1/3 of the camels to his middle son, and 1/9 of the camels to his youngest son. As it's not possible to divide 17 camels by 2 or by 3 or by 9, the 3 brothers started fighting with each other and they were getting into a big conflict. And then they decided, why don't they approach a wise man and find out a solution from him? So they came to the wise man and shared their story. He listened patiently. So the wise man gave it some thought, and then he came up with an idea. He took 1 camel and added it to the 17 camels, which made 18 camels. Then he said 18 divided by 2 are 9 camels. 9 camels he gave to the eldest son. Now 18 divided by 3 are 6 camels. So 6 camels he gave to the middle son. And lastly, 18 divided by 9 is 2. So he gave 2 camels to the youngest son. Now add this up. 9 plus 6 plus 2 is 17. So there was 1 camel remaining, which the wise man could take back, his own camel. So the attitude of conflict is to find the 18th camel, the common ground. So once a person is able to find that 18th camel using their intellect, the problem is resolved. Conflict is not easy. It can be difficult at times, but the important thing is to believe that you can find a solution. If we think there's no solution, your conflict will go nowhere.
The winning stories. These are stories we tell ourselves. Now, depending on the story that you tell your own self about yourself, you can either remain stuck in a situation or you can visualize and paint a picture of success where you're achieving your goals and meeting all your aspirations. So our recommendation to you would be change your stories from negative to self-critical to those of positivity and inspiration for your own self. Here's an example of a great winning self story.
I'm a single mother from a bad marriage. I'm poor and destitute. I don't have a job. I've just moved to a new country and have no family or friends. And I have to rely on charity to look after myself and my child. I'm a writer by profession, but my last book was rejected by 5 publishing houses. My child and I have no future. I'm a fortunate woman. I have a beautiful child who I adore. I had a bad marriage, but lucky I was able to get out of it early. I've just moved to a new country and I'm really excited about that. I'm a gifted writer and have finished a book. My book is doing the rounds with publishers. I haven't found quite the right publisher yet, but I'm sure when I do, my book will be a runaway success. Whose story is the above? J.K. Rowling. Which version of the story do you think she told herself? The second one. Given the resounding success of Harry Potter, J.K. Rowling was telling herself positive stories. If she told herself negative stories, the universe would have conspired to make it happen. If you tell yourself positive stories about your situation in the present or past, and your self-talk, your inner voice, is appreciative and confident, you will see positive things happen to you.
Learning and mentoring stories. As a team leader, a coach, or just a friend and a guide, there'll be multiple opportunities you'll have where you can inspire someone or motivate someone and help them coach on a particular skill. Sharing a personal story in a candid manner of coaching or learning something yourself can work wonders for the other person in such a scenario. Here's an example.
I had a trainer in my team who was responsible for customer service training. He'd been in the role about 6 months, and he was really struggling with understanding the in-depth knowledge he needed to do the customer service training. I was also getting feedback from the process that he really needed to work on his customer service knowledge. I didn't give up on him. First, I had him sit in the call center and take calls for 1 week. Second, I had him listen to calls for 1 week. Then, I had my experienced trainers sit in on his training and give him feedback. Over time, he came up the curve and became one of my strongest trainers. Within 1 year, he was promoted. So don't give up, be a failure-tolerant leader. Where there's a will, there is a way.
We have looked at the importance of stories, of different types of stories, and different constructs of stories. We will conclude here by highlighting some key points of storytelling. Be brief, keep it simple, to the point, rehearse. Make it conversational. It should be believable. Sell the benefits through your story. Story should end on a happy note, or at least positive ending or a positive learning. I hope you found this video useful. If you did, please subscribe to our YouTube channel and press on the bell icon to get notified every time we post a new video.